My name is Olivia Hayes, and I'm 31 years old. 7 years ago, my family threw me out of their house in the middle of the night because my sister told them I tried to seduce her husband. They didn't ask for my side. They didn't check the facts. They just believed her. And within 24 hours, I lost everything. My home, my scholarship, my future, and every person I thought loved me. I spent the next 7 years surviving what they put me through. Homelessness, attacks, nights so dark I wasn't sure I'd see morning. I rebuilt my life from nothing, and I did it without them. Now they found me. Not to apologize, though that came later when they had no choice. They found me because they're drowning in debt, about to lose their house, and they need money, my money. They want me to forget those 7 years and save them from the consequences of their own choices. Before I tell you what I said to them, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Drop a comment below. Let me take you back to where it all started, the night that changed everything. Growing up, I was the responsible one. Straight A's, scholarships, science fairs. I checked every box my parents valued. Harper was 3 years younger, and she was the one everyone loved, not because she achieved anything, but because she knew how to make people feel good about themselves. I didn't mind. I thought there was room for both of us. By the time I turned 24, I had a full scholarship for my doctorate in molecular biology and a research position at a prestigious lab. I was building something. Harper had married Ethan Grant at 21, right out of college, and moved into a house he bought for them. She became a stay-at-home wife. And suddenly, she was the daughter my parents bragged about. Harper knows what matters, Mom would say at family dinners. Family first, career second. Dad was worse. Olivia, you're brilliant, but you're going to wake up one day and realize you've missed what's important. What's important, apparently, was getting married and having babies before 30. I was 24, single, and focused on my research. That made me selfish in their eyes. Difficult. Too independent. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself my work would speak for itself. Then I got invited to present my research at the National Science Conference. It was the biggest opportunity of my career, a chance to present in front of leading researchers, potential investors, people who could change my entire trajectory. I was so excited I could barely sleep. Harper came to dinner the night I got the invitation. I watched her face as Mom and Dad congratulated me, watched the way her smile tightened at the corners. I didn't understand it then. I thought she was happy for me. I didn't realize she was calculating how to take it all away. It was a Tuesday in March when my world ended. I was in my apartment rehearsing my presentation for the 100th time when my phone exploded with calls. Mom, Dad, my aunt, my uncle, all within 5 minutes. I answered Dad's call, and before I could say hello, he was yelling, "Get to the house now!" "Dad, what's now, Olivia?" I drove there with my heart hammering. When I walked in, the entire family was there. Mom, Dad, Harper, my aunt and uncle, even my cousin. Harper was sobbing on the couch, and the second she saw me, she pointed. "How could you?" she screamed. "How could you do that to me?" I stood there frozen. "Do what?" "Don't play innocent," Dad said. His face was red, his jaw tight. "Harper told us everything." Harper's voice shook as she spoke. "Last week at the family barbecue, you wore that dress, that red dress, and you sat next to Ethan. You touched his arm. You leaned in close when you talked to him." I blinked. I was passing him the salad. "You were flirting with my husband." Harper's voice went shrill. "He told me you made him uncomfortable. He said you kept finding excuses to be near him." My mouth fell open. "That's not—" I barely spoke to him. We talked about the weather for maybe 2 minutes. Liar. Harper lunged toward me and my uncle had to hold her back. I turned to my parents. This is insane. I didn't do anything. Mom wouldn't look at me. She just shook her head, tears streaming down her face. Dad stepped forward. Your sister is in pain. Her marriage is in trouble because of you. And all you can do is make excuses. I'm not making excuses. I'm telling you the truth. Enough. Dad's voice was cold. You have 24 hours to get out of this house. I stared at him. What? You heard me. Pack your things and leave. I won't have you destroying this family. I tried to reason with them. I begged them to listen. Please, I said, my voice breaking. Just let me explain. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still lying, Harper said, wiping her eyes. Even now. I turned to my mother. Mom, you know me. You raised me. Do you really think I would do this? She finally looked at me, and what I saw in her eyes broke something inside me. Disappointment? Disgust. I don't know what to think anymore, she whispered. I asked for proof. I asked to see the security camera footage from the backyard where the barbecue happened. I asked them to call Ethan and have him tell them exactly what I supposedly did. Dad refused. I don't need a camera to tell me what my daughter is going through. But I'm your daughter too. Not anymore. His voice was flat. You have until tomorrow night. After that, I'm changing the locks. I looked around the room. My aunt avoided my eyes. My uncle studied the floor. My cousin, who I'd helped with her college applications just 6 months earlier, turned her back. Only Aunt Laura met my gaze. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, then closed it again. I left that house and went back to my apartment. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking they'd call, that someone would realize this was insane, that cooler heads would prevail. No one called. The next morning, I went to campus to talk to my advisor. I needed to explain why I might miss some lab time while I sorted this out. But when I got there, my advisor's face was grim. Olivia, we need to talk about your scholarship. My stomach dropped. What about it? Your father called the department head. He said there were concerns about your character. The committee is reviewing your funding. That's when I understood. My family wasn't just disowning me. They were destroying every path forward I had. Within a week, my scholarship was suspended pending investigation. My research position was terminated. The story my father told, vague enough to be damaging, specific enough to sound credible, spread through the department like poison. I had $800 in my bank account and a car that barely ran. I moved out of my apartment when I couldn't make rent. For 3 months, I slept in my car in different parking lots, moving every night so no one would notice. I showered at the gym until my membership expired, then at truck stops. I ate 1 meal a day, usually dollar menu items I could afford. I applied for jobs, dozens of them. But every application asked for references, and I had none. My family had been my entire world. My professors wouldn't return my calls. The few friends I'd had in grad school had heard the rumors and disappeared. I got a job washing dishes at a diner, then a night shift stocking shelves at a grocery store. I worked both, sleeping in my car between shifts, and still barely made enough to eat. The isolation was worse than the hunger. I'd go days without speaking to anyone beyond, "Can I help you?" and "That'll be $6." I started to forget what my own voice sounded like. I tried calling my mother once, 3 months in. She answered. I heard her breathing on the other end. "Mom," I said, "it's me. I wanted you to know I'm okay. I didn't do what Harper said. I swear I didn't." Silence. "Mom, please. I'm sleeping in my car. I lost everything. Please just listen to me." She hung up. I sat in that car and cried until I couldn't breathe. Then I went to my shift at the grocery store, because I didn't have any other choice. That's when I learned what it means to survive. Not live, just survive. Year 2 was worse. I'd finally saved enough to rent a room in a house with 5 other people. It wasn't much. A mattress on the floor, a shared bathroom, walls so thin I could hear every conversation, but it was shelter. I was working 3 part-time jobs by then: the diner, the grocery store, and weekend shifts cleaning office buildings. I was walking home from the late shift one night in November when I heard footsteps behind me. I walked faster. So did they. I didn't even see their faces. One of them grabbed my bag, and when I held on, the other one shoved me into the brick wall. My head cracked against it, and I tasted blood. "Let go," one of them said. I should have, but that bag had everything: my phone, my wallet, the $300 I'd saved for next month's rent. If I lost it, I'd be on the street again. I held tighter. One of them hit me. I fell, and they kicked me twice before ripping the bag from my hands. I heard them running, heard their laughter fading into the distance. I lay there on the sidewalk, bleeding, trying to remember how to breathe. That's when the car pulled up. A man got out, tall, mid-30s, wearing an expensive suit that looked out of place in this neighborhood. He knelt beside me. "Don't move," he said. "I'm calling an ambulance." "No." I tried to sit up. "I can't afford. I'll pay for it." His voice was calm, certain. "Just stay still." He called 911, then stayed with me until the ambulance arrived. At the hospital, he waited while they stitched the cut on my head and x-rayed my ribs. When the doctor left, he pulled a chair next to my bed. "I'm James Lawson," he said. "Tell me what happened to you." And for the first time in 2 years, someone actually listened. I told James everything. I don't know why. Maybe because he was a stranger, or maybe because I was so tired of carrying it alone. I told him about Harper's lie, about my family throwing me out, about losing my scholarship and my research position. I told him about the car, the jobs, the 2 years of barely surviving. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "That's not right," he finally said. "None of that is right." I laughed, but it came out bitter. "Doesn't matter if it's right, it's done." "It matters." He leaned forward. "You said you were working on a doctorate before this happened, molecular biology." "Yeah, why?" "Because you're clearly intelligent, hardworking, and resilient as hell. Those are exactly the qualities I look for." I blinked at him. "Look for in what?" "Employees." He pulled out a business card and handed it to me. "I run an investment firm, Lawson Capital Group. We're always looking for talented people. And you're wasting your potential cleaning offices." I stared at the card. "I don't have a degree. I don't have references. I don't have anything." "You have 2 years of surviving something that would have broken most people. That's worth more than a resume." He stood up. "Think about it. When you're ready, call that number and ask for me. I'll make sure you get an interview." "Why would you do this?" He paused at the door. "Because someone helped me once when I had nothing. I'm just passing it forward." 3 days later, I called the number. A week after that, I interviewed for an administrative assistant position. 2 weeks later, I had the job. It paid $40,000 a year. To me, it felt like winning the lottery. If you've ever felt like no one believed in you, or if you've had to rebuild from nothing, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. What helped you keep going? And if this story is resonating with you, please hit that subscribe button. It helps me share these experiences with others who might need to hear them. Now, let me tell you what happened next. The first year at Lawson Capital, I worked harder than I'd ever worked in my life. I arrived early, stayed late, and volunteered for every project no one else wanted. I taught myself financial modeling, investment analysis, portfolio management, anything that would make me valuable. James noticed. 6 months in, he promoted me to junior analyst. A year after that, project manager. By year 3, I was leading client accounts worth millions. But more than the promotions, James gave me something I'd lost: the belief that I deserve success. He never pitied me. He pushed me, challenged me, expected excellence. When I made mistakes, he showed me how to fix them. When I succeeded, he made sure everyone knew. "You're not here because I felt sorry for you," he told me once. "You're here because you're good at this." Somewhere along the way, our relationship shifted. Late nights working on deals turned into dinners. Conversations about work turned into conversations about life. He told me about his own past. Growing up poor, building his company from nothing, learning that success meant nothing without people to share it with. "I don't trust easily," he said one night over takeout in the office. "But I trust you." "Why?" I asked. "Because you know what it's like to lose everything. People who've been broken and put themselves back together, they're the ones who understand what really matters." We started dating in year 4. He never rushed me, never pushed. He understood that trust was something I had to rebuild slowly, piece by piece. We got married in year 5. A small ceremony, just a handful of friends. I didn't invite my family. By then, I'd built a new life, and they weren't part of it. I'd learned to live without them. I thought I always would. 7 years after they threw me out, an email appeared in my inbox. The sender was my mother. The subject line was blank. I stared at it for 10 minutes before opening it. "Olivia," it read. "This is Mom. I know you have every reason to be angry with us. I know we hurt you, but your father and I are in trouble, and we need to talk to you. Please, just once. We're still your parents." I read it 3 times. Then I showed it to James. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "I don't know." My hands were shaking. 7 years, not a word, and now they need something. "You don't owe them anything." "I know." I closed my laptop. "But I need to know what they want. I need to close this chapter." James squeezed my hand. "Then we'll do it together, but on your terms, in a public place, and you don't have to give them anything." I arranged to meet them at a coffee shop in downtown Denver. Neutral ground. Witnesses. They arrived 10 minutes late. My father looked older, grayer, thinner, with lines around his eyes I didn't remember. My mother had aged, too, her hair more white than brown now. They sat down across from me. Neither of them smiled. "Olivia," Dad said. "Thank you for meeting us." I didn't respond. I just waited. Mom reached across the table like she wanted to touch my hand, then thought better of it. "You look well. What do you want?" I kept my voice level. Dad cleared his throat. "We're in financial trouble. I made some bad investments. We're going to lose the house." "I see." "We need help," Mom said quietly. "We need money." I looked at them both. "And you thought I would give it to you?" Dad's jaw tightened. "You're our daughter." "No," I said. "I stopped being your daughter 7 years ago. You made that very clear." "We made a mistake," Mom said, her voice breaking. "We know that now." "A mistake." I let the word hang there. "You threw me out based on a lie. You destroyed my scholarship, my career, my entire future. You didn't ask questions. You didn't investigate. You just believed her." "Harper was our daughter too," Dad said. "She was hurting. And I wasn't." My voice stayed calm, but I felt James's hand on my knee under the table, grounding me. I was sleeping in my car. I was eating 1 meal a day. I was attacked and robbed. "Where were you then?" Mom started crying. "We didn't know." "You didn't want to know. There's a difference." Dad leaned forward. We're going to lose everything. The house, our savings, all of it. We owe the bank $300,000. We're your parents, Olivia. You can't just let us become homeless. Why not? I asked. You let me. That was different. How? He didn't have an answer. What about Harper? I asked. Where is she in all this? Mom and Dad exchanged a look. Harper and Ethan are divorcing, Mom finally said. She's living with us. She's not doing well. Not doing well? How? She's depressed, drinking. She lost her friends when the marriage fell apart. Mom twisted her hands together. She made mistakes, Olivia. She knows that. But she's still your sister. No, I said quietly. She's the person who destroyed my life because she was jealous. Those are not the same thing. Dad's face reddened. So, you're just going to let us suffer after everything we did for you growing up? Everything you did for me? I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You mean the 24 years before you decided I was worthless? I'm supposed to be grateful for that? This is revenge, Dad said. Pure and simple. No, I said. This is consequence. 2 days after that meeting, an envelope arrived at my office. Inside was an invitation to my parents' 30th wedding anniversary party. Formal cardstock, elegant script, a venue I recognized as one of the nicest restaurants in the city. My phone rang an hour later. Mom, did you get the invitation? She asked. I did. We'd like you to come. It's important to us, to the whole family, that we're all together for this. I almost laughed. You want me at your anniversary party? It's a chance to heal, she said. To move forward as a family. Move forward, I repeated. Is that what we're calling it? Olivia, please. There will be 50 people there. Family, friends, people who've known you since you were a child. It's time to put this behind us. Behind us? I looked at the invitation again. Who else will be there? Everyone. Your aunts and uncles, cousins, our friends from church. Harper will be there too. Of course she will. Mom's voice softened. She wants to apologize to you. She's been working on herself, going to therapy. She knows she hurt you. 7 years later, she's ready to apologize. Better late than never. I was quiet for a long moment. An idea was forming in my mind. Dangerous, maybe, but necessary. I'll come, I said. You will? Mom sounded shocked. Yes, but I'm bringing my husband and I have some conditions. What conditions? I'll tell you at the party. That night, I sat down with James and told him what I was planning. He listened carefully, then nodded. Are you sure about this? He asked. I'm sure. I've spent 7 years rebuilding my life. It's time they understood what they destroyed and what I built without them. James smiled. Then let's make sure they can't ignore it this time. I made one more call that night to Margaret Ellis, the best lawyer I knew. I need your help, I told her. And I need documentation. The day before the party, my phone rang from an unknown number. Olivia, it's Aunt Laura. I hadn't spoken to her in 7 years. Aunt Laura. I know I don't have the right to call you. I know I should have spoken up back then. Her voice was thick with emotion. But I need to tell you something before tomorrow night. I'm listening. I always knew Harper was lying. My breath caught. What? That week after she made the accusation, I heard her on the phone with a friend. She was in the guest room and I was walking past. She said, Laura's voice broke. She said, I had to do something. Olivia's always been the perfect one. Mom and Dad worship her. I needed them to see she's not so perfect after all. I gripped the phone. You heard her admit it? I did. I even recorded part of it on my phone. I'd been trying to capture a bird outside the window, and I didn't stop recording when I heard her voice. She paused. I should have said something then, I should have played it for your parents, but I was scared. Scared of causing drama. Scared of being the one who tore the family apart. So, you let them tear me apart instead. Yes. Her voice was barely a whisper. And I've regretted it every single day since. I'm so sorry, Olivia. I was quiet for a long moment. Do you still have the recording? I do. I've kept it all these years. I kept thinking maybe one day I'd have the courage to. Bring it tomorrow, I said. To the party. Olivia, what are you planning? I'm planning to tell the truth. All of it. In front of everyone. Your parents will be devastated. Good. I said. Maybe they'll finally understand what they did to me. James and I arrived at the Summit Grill exactly on time. I'd chosen my outfit carefully, a navy suit, professional and polished, with my wedding ring clearly visible. I wanted them to see what I'd become. The restaurant's private room was decorated with white flowers and gold accents. Round tables filled the space, already crowded with guests. I recognized most of them. Relatives I hadn't seen in 7 years. Family friends who'd known me since childhood. The conversations died as I walked in. My mother saw me first. Her eyes widened, then filled with tears. She rushed over, arms outstretched, but I stepped back. Hello, Mom. She stopped, lowering her arms. Olivia, you came. You look beautiful. Thank you. My father approached more slowly. His eyes went to James, then to my left hand. You're married, he said. I am. This is my husband, James Lawson. James, these are my parents, Michael and Deborah Hayes. James shook their hands with polite coolness. Nice to meet you. Around us, people were staring. I heard whispers, saw heads turning. My cousin Emily approached hesitantly. Olivia, is that really you? It is. I didn't think you'd come after everything. She trailed off, uncomfortable. After everything, I agreed. My Uncle Richard walked over, his face carefully neutral. Good to see you, Olivia. You've done well for yourself, I hear. I have. Your father mentioned you're in finance now. I'm COO of Lawson Capital Group. His eyebrows rose. Several people nearby turned to look. Lawson Capital was well known, a multi-billion-dollar firm that regularly made headlines. That's impressive, Richard said. Thank you. Across the room, I saw Harper. She was sitting alone at a corner table, thinner than I remembered, her face pale. When our eyes met, she looked away. My mother touched my arm. Please, let's not make a scene. Can we just have one nice evening? Of course, I said. Let's have a nice evening. Dinner was served. I sat at a table with James, Aunt Laura, and several cousins I barely remembered. The conversations around me were awkward, full of careful small talk that avoided the obvious questions. Then my father stood up and tapped his glass. The room went quiet. Thank you all for being here tonight, he said, his voice carrying across the room. Deborah and I are grateful to celebrate 30 years of marriage with the people we love most. Polite applause. Marriage isn't easy, he continued. It requires forgiveness, understanding, and the willingness to work through difficult times. Family requires the same things. He looked directly at me. We're especially grateful that our daughter Olivia could join us tonight after many years of distance. Family is everything, and we're glad to have our family whole again. More applause. People were looking at me, smiling as if this were a heartwarming reunion. My father wasn't done. These past few years have been challenging for Deborah and me. We faced financial difficulties, and we've learned who our real family is. We've learned that when times are hard, family steps up to help each other. He raised his glass toward me. To family, to forgiveness, and to moving forward together. Everyone drank. Everyone except me. My mother was crying again, dabbing at her eyes with a napkin. Several relatives were nodding approvingly, as if my father had just delivered a touching speech about reconciliation. But I'd heard what he really said. He'd just told a room full of people that I was expected to help them financially. He'd framed it as family duty, as the right thing to do, in front of witnesses who would judge me if I refused. I stood up. The room went silent again. "Thank you, Dad," I said. "That was a beautiful speech, but I think we should be clear about what we're really talking about tonight." My father's face went red. "Olivia, this isn't the time." "When is the time?" I asked. "You just told everyone here that family helps family, so let's talk about family." "Please sit down," my mother said, her voice shaking. "No." I stayed standing. 7 years ago, you threw me out of your house because Harper told you I tried to seduce her husband. You didn't ask for my side of the story. You didn't investigate. You just believed her. Gasps rippled through the room. People who'd been smiling moments ago now looked shocked. "That's not—" my father started. "I lost everything," I continued, my voice steady. "My scholarship, my research position, my home. I was 24 years old and you put me on the street with $800 and a car that barely ran." "Olivia, stop," my mother pleaded. "I spent 2 years homeless. I was attacked and robbed. I worked 3 jobs just to afford a room with 5 strangers, and none of you, not one of you, asked if I was okay." The room was dead silent now. I saw my Uncle Richard's face go pale. Emily had her hand over her mouth. Then Harper stood up. "Stop," she said, her voice breaking. "Just stop." Everyone turned to look at her. "I can't do this anymore." Tears were streaming down her face. "I can't sit here and let this happen." "Harper, sit down," my father said sharply. "No." She walked to the center of the room, shaking. "Olivia didn't do anything. She never touched Ethan. She never flirted with him. I made it up." My mother gasped. "What?" "I lied." Harper's voice rose, desperate. "I lied about all of it. Olivia never did anything wrong. I was jealous. She was so perfect. And everyone loved her. And I wanted them to see that she wasn't perfect. So I lied." The room erupted in shocked whispers. My father stood frozen, his face ashen. "Harper, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I destroyed Olivia's life because I was jealous." Harper was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. "Ethan never did anything. Olivia never did anything. It was all me. All my lie." "But you were so upset," my mother said, her voice barely audible. "You were crying. You said—" "I know what I said," Harper screamed. "And it was all a lie. I've been living with it for 7 years and I can't anymore. I can't watch you beg her for money when this is all my fault." The room was in chaos now. People talking over each other, voices rising in shock and anger. Aunt Laura stood up. She walked to the center of the room, her phone in her hand. "I have proof," she said. Everyone went quiet. Laura looked at me, then at my parents. A week after Harper made her accusation, I heard her on the phone with a friend. She admitted she'd lied. I recorded it. My father's face went from pale to gray. "You what?" "I was a coward," Laura said, her voice shaking. "I should have come forward then, but I'm not going to be a coward anymore." She pressed play on her phone. Harper's voice filled the room, tiny but clear through the restaurant sound system that someone had connected her phone to. I had to do something. Olivia's always been the perfect one. Mom and Dad worship her. I needed them to see she's not so perfect after all. I exaggerated a little. Made up some stuff about her flirting with Ethan. It's not like she can prove she didn't do it. The recording ended. The silence that followed was deafening. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. "I also have this." This is the moment where many people ask, should she forgive them? What would you do in her position? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments, not just about forgiveness, but about boundaries and accountability. If this story is making you think, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Now, here's what I said next. I walked to the center of the room and placed the folder on my parents' table. This is my employment contract from 7 years ago, I said. The week Harper accused me of flirting with Ethan at your barbecue, I was in Tokyo for a work conference. I have the plane tickets, hotel receipts, and signed documentation from 12 witnesses who can confirm I was there. My father opened the folder with shaking hands. His face went from gray to white. I couldn't have been at that barbecue, I continued, because I was 7,000 miles away presenting research to international investors. But none of you asked. None of you checked. A woman I didn't recognize stood up. I'm Margaret Ellis, Ms. Hayes's attorney. All of these documents have been notarized and verified. Miss Hayes was physically impossible to have been where she was accused of being. Oh my God, my mother whispered. She looked at Harper. You said it was last week's barbecue. You were so specific. I was wrong about the date, Harper said desperately. I was confused. Stop. My voice cut through her excuses. Just stop lying. I turned to address the entire room. 7 years ago, my family chose to believe a lie without asking a single question. They destroyed my scholarship, my career, and my reputation. They threw me out, with nothing, and told everyone I was a homewrecker. I looked at my father. You called my department head and told him there were concerns about my character. You made sure I couldn't go back to school. You didn't just disown me. You tried to make sure I could never recover. I was protecting my family, he said weakly. I was your family. My voice didn't shake. And you threw me away like garbage. My mother stood up and walked toward me, her hands outstretched. Olivia, honey, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. We didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't ask. I didn't move away from her, but I didn't move toward her either. You chose to believe the worst of me without a single piece of evidence. We were wrong. She was crying openly now. We were so wrong. Please, you have to forgive us. I don't have to do anything. My father approached, his face crumbling. Olivia, I made a terrible mistake. I should have listened to you. I should have investigated. I was trying to protect Harper. And You were trying to protect your image, I said. You were worried about what people would think if your daughter was sleeping with her sister's husband. You didn't care about the truth. You cared about appearances. That's not fair, isn't it? I looked around the room. You're doing the same thing now. You invited me here in front of all these people and had Dad make that speech about family helping family. You were trying to pressure me into giving you money by making it a public expectation. My mother's face flushed. We just thought... You thought I'd be too embarrassed to say no in front of everyone. I shook my head. You haven't changed at all. Harper stumbled forward. Olivia, please. I know I can never make this right. I destroyed your life. I took everything from you. But I'm begging you. Begging me for what? I asked. Forgiveness. Money. Both. I just want you to know I'm sorry. She fell to her knees. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything. Anything. I looked down at her. You can't give me back 7 years. You can't give me back my doctorate, my research, the life I should have had. Your apology doesn't fix any of that. My father's voice hardened. So, you're just going to let us lose everything. We're about to be homeless, Olivia. You can help us, and you're choosing not to. You let me be homeless, I said quietly. For 2 years, no one asked if I had food. No one asked if I was safe. No one cared. We didn't know. You could have known. You could have called. You could have checked. You chose not to. But we're your parents. My mother's voice broke. We raised you. We fed you. Clothed you. Paid for your education for 24 years. I interrupted. And then you decided none of that mattered anymore. You decided I was worthless based on a lie you didn't bother to verify. My father stepped closer. You're really going to stand there and watch us lose our home? Yes. The single word fell like a stone into the silence. You're cruel, he said. You're vindictive and cruel. No, I said. I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. I pulled out a piece of paper from my bag and placed it on the table. This is a list of social services, housing assistance programs, and financial counseling organizations. They can help you navigate bankruptcy and find affordable housing. My mother stared at the paper. You're giving us a list? I'm giving you resources. The same resources I had to find on my own when I was sleeping in my car. This is revenge. My father spat. This is accountability. I kept my voice level. You made choices. You chose to believe a lie. You chose to throw me out. You chose to destroy my career. Those were your choices, and these are the consequences. We're your family. You stopped being my family 7 years ago. I picked up my bag. You don't get to decide your family again just because you need something. James stood up and placed his hand on my shoulder. I think my wife has made herself clear, he said, his voice calm but firm. My Uncle Richard stood up. Now, wait just a minute. You can't seriously expect. I expect nothing, James said. But since we're all here, let me make something very clear. 7 years ago, you all stood by and watched a 24-year-old woman get thrown out of her family for something she didn't do. Not one of you asked questions. Not one of you offered help. He looked around the room. My wife survived 2 years of homelessness. She was attacked. She was robbed. She worked 3 jobs just to afford a room in a house with strangers. And now that she's successful, now that she's built a life, you want her to hand over her money to fix problems she didn't create. She's family, my aunt said weakly. Family protects each other, James replied. Family asks questions before passing judgment. Family doesn't abandon someone based on a lie. He paused. You weren't family to her when she needed you. You don't get to be family now that you need her. My father's face was purple with rage. Who the hell do you think you are? I'm the person who found her bleeding on a sidewalk after she'd been robbed. I'm the person who gave her a chance when no one else would. I'm the person who saw her worth when her own family couldn't. James's voice was steel. And I'm the person who will make sure she never doubts her worth again. My mother turned to me, desperate. Olivia, please. We're sorry. We'll do anything. Just, please don't let us lose our home. You didn't just let me lose my home, I said. You made sure I had nowhere to go. You called my school. You spread rumors. You tried to destroy any chance I had of rebuilding. We made a mistake. No, I said. You made a choice. I turned to face the entire room. Most people wouldn't meet my eyes. Some looked ashamed. Others looked angry. I want everyone here to understand something, I said. I'm not doing this out of hatred. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I'm simply refusing to save people from the consequences of their own choices. I looked at my parents. You chose to believe Harper without evidence. That was your choice. You chose to throw me out without asking questions. That was your choice. You chose to try to destroy my career. That was your choice. My father started to speak, but I held up my hand. And Dad, you chose to make bad investments. You chose to risk your retirement and your home. Those were your choices too. I'm not responsible for any of them. But we're family, my mother whispered. If you want a relationship with me in the future, here are my terms. I kept my voice steady. You handle your financial problems yourselves. You go to therapy. both individual and family. You learn to ask questions before making judgments, and you respect my boundaries. What does that mean? My father asked. It means I'm not your retirement plan. I'm not your safety net. I'm not the solution to problems you created. I paused. I'm willing to have a relationship with you someday, but it will be on my terms, not yours. And it will take time. Years, probably. Years. My mother looked stricken. 7 years, I said. The same amount of time you let me suffer before you cared enough to reach out. I turned to Harper. She was still on her knees, tears streaming down her face. As for you, I said, I don't hate you, but I don't forgive you either. What you did was unforgivable. You destroyed my life because you were jealous. Harper looked up at me, her face blotchy and swollen. I know. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I don't deserve anything from you. You're right. You don't. I pulled another piece of paper from my bag. But I'm not going to be the person who destroys you the way you destroyed me. I handed her the paper. This is the name and number of a therapist who specializes in addiction and family trauma. I've paid for your first 3 sessions. Harper stared at the paper, then at me. Why would you do that? Because I'm not you. I crouched down so we were eye level. You ruined my life because you were weak and jealous. I'm not going to ruin yours because I'm strong enough not to. I don't understand. You need help, Harper. Real help. Not money, not someone to bail you out, but actual therapy to figure out why you did what you did. I stood back up. Whether you use it or not is up to you, but I've given you a chance. What you do with it is your choice. I am so sorry, she sobbed. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix what you broke. I looked at her for a long moment. You have to fix yourself, and you have to do it without me. I walked back to James. Around us, the room was still silent. People were staring, some with their mouths open, others with tears in their eyes. My cousin Emily stood up. Olivia, I should have reached out. I should have asked if you were okay. I'm sorry. Thank you, I said simply. My uncle, Richard, cleared his throat. Your father. He told us you'd done something terrible. We believed him. We shouldn't have. No, I agreed. You shouldn't have. One by one, a few relatives approached. Not many, but some. They apologized. They said they should have asked questions. I accepted their apologies with quiet grace, but I didn't promise anything. But not everyone apologized. Some people gathered around my parents, offering comfort, shooting me angry looks. I heard whispered comments. She could help them if she wanted to. It's cruel to watch your parents suffer. Family is supposed to forgive. But others, more than I expected, looked at my parents with something close to disgust. My Aunt Susan, who I had barely known, walked up to my father. Michael, you threw your daughter out without proof. You destroyed her life, and now you expect her to save you. She shook her head. That's not how this works. She's our daughter, my father started. She was your daughter, Susan interrupted. You made her not your daughter. You don't get to change that now that it's convenient. Another family friend, someone I vaguely remembered from childhood, approached my mother. Deborah, I've known you for 30 years. I never thought you'd be capable of something like this. My mother just cried harder. Aunt Laura came to stand beside me. I'm proud of you, she said quietly. I know that doesn't mean much coming from me, but I am. Thank you for the recording, I said, for finally speaking up. It was 7 years too late. Yes, I agreed. But better late than never. She hugged me, and I let her. Not everyone deserved forgiveness, but Aunt Laura had at least tried to make things right. My parents stood in the center of the room, isolated. People were leaving now. The party clearly over. Some stopped to say goodbye to me, to James. Almost no one said goodbye to my parents. I watched my father's face as he realized what was happening. His party, his celebration, had turned into his public humiliation. He tried to use social pressure to force my hand, and it had backfired spectacularly. "We should go," James said softly. I nodded. But there was one more thing I needed to say. I walked to the center of the room one last time. The remaining guests turned to look at me. "I want to say something to everyone here," I said. "Not just to my family, but to all of you." The room went quiet again. 7 years ago, I lost everything because of a lie. I lost my home, my education, my career, and my family. I spent years surviving things no one should have to survive. I paused. But I did survive. And I learned something important. I looked around the room, meeting eyes. I learned that my worth isn't determined by whether people believe me. It's not determined by whether my family loves me. It's not determined by anything except what I choose to build for myself. I learned that setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary. That protecting yourself isn't cruel. It's survival. And that forgiving someone doesn't mean letting them hurt you again. I turned to my parents one last time. I don't hate you. I don't wish you harm. But I also don't owe you my peace, my money, or my forgiveness. You made choices, and now you're facing the consequences of those choices. That's not my fault. It's not my responsibility to fix. My mother opened her mouth to speak, but I shook my head. I'm done explaining myself. I'm done justifying my boundaries. I'm done feeling guilty for protecting myself. I took James's hand. I found my family, the people who stood by me when I had nothing, the people who believed in me when no one else did. That's my family now. I looked at Aunt Laura, at Margaret Ellis standing by the door, at James beside me. Family isn't about blood, I said. It's about who shows up when everything falls apart and who stays when you rebuild. James and I walked toward the door. Behind us, I heard my mother crying, my father's angry voice, Harper's sobs. I didn't look back. 2 weeks after the party, Aunt Laura called with an update. "I thought you should know what's happening," she said. "Your parents sold the house. They're moving into a 2-bedroom apartment next month." "Good," I said. "That's a smart decision. Your father is working with a financial counselor. He got a part-time job as a consultant for his old bank." She paused. "He's angry, Olivia. He feels humiliated. He humiliated himself. I know, but I think he's starting to understand. Your mother definitely is. She started therapy last week. That's good. And I meant it. I didn't want them to suffer forever. I just wanted them to take responsibility." "Harper moved out," Laura continued. "She got a studio apartment and a job at a grocery store. She's still going to AA meetings. She asked me to tell you she's using the therapist you recommended. I hope it helps her." "Do you really?" Laura asked gently. I thought about it. Yes. I don't want her life to be destroyed. I just don't want to be the one to save it. That's fair. Laura was quiet for a moment. "Several people from the party have reached out to me. They wanted to know how to contact you to apologize properly. Tell them they can send letters to your address. You can forward them if you want. Will you read them? Maybe eventually." I looked out my office window at the city below. "I'm not closing the door completely, Laura, but I'm also not opening it wide. They need to prove they've changed, not just say they're sorry." "I understand." She hesitated. "For what it's worth, I think you handled everything perfectly. You were strong and kind and fair, even when they didn't deserve it. Thank you." After we hung up, I sat with the information for a while. My parents were facing consequences. Harper was trying to change. The family was fractured, possibly forever, and I felt peaceful. Life moved forward. 3 months after the party, I was promoted to Chief Operating Officer of Lawson Capital. James and I celebrated with a quiet dinner at home, just the two of us. "I'm proud of you," he said, raising his glass, "not just for the promotion, for everything. I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have." He smiled. "I just made it easier." We'd started talking about having children. The conversation scared me. What if I became like my parents? What if I failed the way they had? James understood. "You won't," he said. "Because you know what it feels like to not be believed. You know what it feels like to be abandoned. You'll do everything in your power to make sure our children never feel that way." "How do you know?" "Because that's who you are." I'd also started a new project, a scholarship fund for young people who'd been disowned by their families. I called it the Second Chance Foundation. We provided not just money for education, but also housing assistance, therapy, and job placement services. "I don't want anyone to go through what I went through," I told the board at our first meeting. "And if they do, I want them to have support I didn't have." The foundation launched with $1 million donation from Lawson Capital. Within 6 months, we'd helped 15 people get back into school and find stable housing. One of them, a 19-year-old named Mia, sent me a letter. "You gave me hope when I thought I had none. Thank you for showing me that being disowned isn't the end of my story." I kept that letter in my desk drawer. On hard days, I'd read it and remember why all of this mattered. I'd turned my pain into purpose. I'd built something good from something terrible. That felt like the best kind of justice. 6 months after the party, a letter arrived at my office, handwritten on simple stationery from my mother. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. "Dear Olivia," it read, "I'm not writing to ask for anything. I'm writing because I need you to know that I'm trying to change. I've been in therapy for 6 months now. Dr. Richards has helped me understand how deeply I failed you." I kept reading. "I've learned that I was more concerned with appearances than with truth. I was more worried about what people would think than about protecting my daughter. I chose comfort over courage, and I will regret that for the rest of my life. Your father is changing too, though more slowly. He's working, paying down our debt. He's angry. But underneath the anger, I think he's ashamed. He should be. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't deserve that. But I want you to know that I'm working on becoming the mother I should have been 7 years ago. Even if it's too late for us, I want to be better. Harper is doing better. She's been sober for 4 months. She got a promotion at work. She talks about you sometimes, about how you gave her a chance when you didn't have to. She's trying to become someone worthy of that gift. I don't know if you'll ever want a relationship with me again. I understand if you don't, but if you ever do, I'll be here, and I'll listen this time. Really listen." The letter ended with, "I love you. I always have. I just didn't show it when it mattered most. Mom." I folded the letter and put it in my desk drawer next to Mia's letter. I wasn't ready to respond. Maybe I never would be, but I also didn't throw it away. Looking back on those 7 years, I realize I learned lessons I never wanted to learn. I learned that family isn't always safe, that the people who are supposed to protect you can be the ones who hurt you most. And that's not your fault. I learned that setting boundaries doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you someone who understands that you can't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. I learned that forgiveness is a choice, not an obligation. Some people will tell you that you have to forgive to move on. They're wrong. You can heal without forgiving. You can find peace without reconciliation. I learned that you don't have to save people who won't save themselves. My parents made their choices. Harper made hers. Those consequences belong to them, not to me. Most importantly, I learned that my worth isn't determined by whether people believe me, love me, or value me. It's determined by how I see myself and what I choose to build. I built a life I'm proud of, a career that challenges me, a marriage that supports me, a foundation that helps others who've been where I was. I did all of that without my family's help, without their approval, without their belief in me. And that's the greatest victory of all. Not that I won, but that I survived. Not that I got revenge, but that I refused to let their abandonment define me. Sometimes people ask me if I regret not helping my parents financially. The answer is no. Not because I'm cruel, but because helping them would have taught them nothing. It would have enabled them to avoid the consequences of their choices. It would have told them that they could treat people terribly and still expect to be rescued. I don't regret my boundaries. I regret that they were necessary in the first place. Last month, James and I hosted a dinner party at our house. Not a big event, just the people who matter most. Margaret Ellis was there, telling stories about her latest case. Aunt Laura brought homemade pie. A few colleagues from Lawson Capital came, people who'd become genuine friends over the years. Mia, the scholarship recipient who'd written me that letter, was there too. She just finished her first year of college with a 4.0 GPA. She was studying social work, she told me, because she wanted to help people the way I'd helped her. "You gave me more than money," she said. "You gave me proof that I could rebuild." "You did the rebuilding," I told her. "I just opened a door." James stood up to make a toast. "To family," he said. "Not the family you're born into, but the family you choose. The people who show up when things are hard. The people who believe in you when you don't believe in yourself. The people who stay." Everyone raised their glasses. I looked around the table at these faces, people who'd seen me at my worst and loved me anyway. People who'd never asked me to prove I was worth their time. This was my family. Now, after dinner, James found me on the back porch looking at the stars. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah." I leaned into him. I was just thinking about how different my life is now from what I thought it would be. "Better or worse?" "Different," I said. "I lost the family I was born into, but I found the family I needed." He kissed the top of my head. "They lost you. That's their tragedy, not yours." "I know." And I did. Finally, after 7 years, I really knew I wasn't the one who should feel guilty. They were. And that knowledge set me free. Last week, I spoke at a university about the Second Chance Foundation. The auditorium was packed with students, many of them dealing with their own family struggles. "How did you get through it?" one student asked. "When you had nothing, when everyone abandoned you, how did you keep going?" I thought about it carefully. "I didn't do it alone," I said, "and I didn't do it by pretending it didn't hurt. I survived by letting myself feel the pain, then choosing to build something anyway." Another student raised her hand. "Do you regret not helping your family?" "No, because helping them would have meant teaching them that actions don't have consequences, that they could destroy someone and still expect to be rescued." I paused. Real help isn't doing things for people. Real help is supporting them while they do the hard work themselves. "What if they never change?" someone asked. "Then they don't. And that's sad. But it's not my responsibility to fix." I looked around the room. You're not responsible for saving people who won't save themselves. You're not responsible for managing other people's emotions. You're only responsible for your own healing and your own growth. After the talk, several students approached me. They shared their stories. Parents who disowned them for being gay, families who'd cut them off for choosing different careers, siblings who'd betrayed them. Each story was different, but the pain was the same. "You're going to be okay," I told each of them. "It doesn't feel like it now, but you will. You'll build a life you're proud of. You'll find people who value you. And one day, you'll look back and realize that losing people who didn't appreciate you made room for people who do. I believed it because I'd lived it. The family that abandoned me taught me what I didn't want to be. The family I built taught me what I could become. If you're watching this and you're in a similar situation, if you've been abandoned by family, blamed for things you didn't do, or pressured to forgive people who hurt you, I want you to hear this. You don't owe anyone an apology for protecting yourself. You're not selfish for setting boundaries. You don't have to save people who chose not to save you. My family made their choice 7 years ago. They chose to believe a lie over their daughter. They chose appearances over truth. They chose comfort over courage. Those were their choices, not mine. I made my own choices. I chose to survive. I chose to rebuild. I chose to create a life worth living, even when they tried to make sure I couldn't. And when they came back desperate and broke, asking me to forget everything and rescue them, I chose myself. Not because I'm cruel, not because I wanted revenge, but because I learned that I'm not responsible for the consequences of other people's choices. They wanted me to set myself on fire to keep them warm. I refused. That's not heartless. That's self-preservation. 7 years ago, my family destroyed my life because my sister was jealous. Today, they're facing the consequences of that choice. I didn't cause those consequences. I'm just not preventing them. There's a difference between punishment and accountability. I'm not punishing them. I'm simply refusing to shield them from the results of their own actions. And I'm not sorry for that. I built a beautiful life from the ashes of the one they burned down. I found love, success, purpose, and peace. I found a family that values me. They could have been part of that. They chose not to be. That was their choice. This is mine. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? How did you navigate that? I have 2 questions for you. Option A, should people always forgive family no matter what? Option B, is it okay to prioritize your own healing over family reconciliation? Leave your answer A or B in the comments and tell me why. If this story helped you in any way, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about resilience, boundaries, and finding your own path. Thank you for being here.